Like to welcome John Patrick Schutz, who is a, did I say your last name right? Because I'm,
Schutz, actually.
there we go. Okay, I can't read. But I want to introduce him as a phenomenal human being, local village historian for the town of Nyack, notable art reviewer and critic and writer. He knows everything about art. And also, he's an artist himself. Please check out his work. But without further introduction, I would like to introduce John.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Lisa. Um, I want to say that I am so pleased that I've been asked to do this. It's a great honor. And something Michael was just saying is right. It's time to get pissed. I am usually considered one of the most diplomatic hosts of events out there. Anybody who knows me personally knows that I have a way of trying to smooth over difficulties and everything. And generally, I try and keep from topics that become too controversial or that two sides could very be present at whatever event that I'm at that I'm hosting. But I'm not doing that tonight because this has all gone too far. The world is in a very weird, strange, bad place. We have so many issues that we need to deal with, and it is not time for any of us to be silent. And these artists have all come up with ways to resist. And as I joked with the folks from Roca earlier, the Borg were wrong. If any of you are Star Trek fans, resistance is not futile, and it never will be. But we must, as human beings, stand up for the rights of people of color, stand up for the rights of people who are migrating to this country, stand up for the rights of women, for God's sake, stand up and be counted and not allow our world to be polluted to death. And in a much more subtle, but also kind of fun way, stand up for art and those who would resist doing art the same way that everybody else insists that it be done, but break out to find their own style. These were some of the things that I found while I was going through all of the works. We had hope. There were things that were so hopeful and wonderful. Nirvana, which was like to me the Big Bang, and all of the possibilities that were available came through on that piece, Nirvana. Um, don't give up. It's this gentle reminder and a very sweet piece that says to us that we need to move on. There are so many of these pieces. Ukraine rises and the sunflowers are discuss Ukraine. There are so many different perspectives that come through in this show. We have resisting, as I said, they're resisting the artistic dogma. And that one comes with Cartoon for the Sistine Chapel, which I found a wonderful piece. A Thousand Ways, which was transparent. And gosh, I wish I was able to see it from both directions because that would have been a very great thing to do. Free the Light, coming from behind a fence that's fencing in your own light. Love that. We have very symbolic stuff, the ice storm. Ice symbolizing not only the cold that's in the piece and the snow that's in the piece, but the organization that hunts down our migrants. We have Climbing the Wall, very moody, very oppressive, and yet they're still climbing. I really enjoyed that piece very, very much. The duality of organized chaos, um, just so cool, black and white, and the fact that there's so much duality in, we apparently find no gray anymore. Everything is either just you agree with this side or you agree with that side, and there's no meeting in the middle. And that's the diplomatic part of me going, hey, there's got to be some way to find a little bit of common ground. But then again, when common ground is so far away, how do we find it? Bloody Tears, the kids, that very affecting. Easy Ammo, I'm a gun person who's very much for gun control, and that was a very stirring piece for me. Um, we've got women's issues, brought up a number of times in here. Um, Stop the violence. We've got Barbie's opium crisis. We have Stop, which is a fascinating piece because it looks like a woman who's in a fetal position and there are two hands. Are those hands embracing her and holding her and maybe even coddling her? Or are those hands violent hands? Are those hands on her body she doesn't want there? Brilliantly done. People using words, actual physical words within their pieces. One, I saw Scarlet Letter right away. I recognized the piece by reading some of the words that were there. Purple Threads. I looked at it the first time in that blink reaction and I had to focus in. And sure enough, there's the text of the color purple. And just brilliantly done. Our better selves, could I please sign along with the artist and whoever else she has had sign that one? I just absolutely adored that. Racial issues. Oh my goodness. So many that were in there. The Nubian African Queen, just loved. As I said, Purple Threads. American Sun was like a punch to the gut when I first saw it. I have two brothers that are police officers or retired at this point. They know what's wrong within that industry. They know what's wrong with many of the men that they worked with over the years. They know what's wrong with the way policing is taught. That one hit me very, very hard. We have war, and there are two wars on right now that are just horrific. Um, and we had good perspectives on all of those. I wanted to discuss how I made my process as I did this. I went through all the pieces and I went through them three times. The first time was like a blink reaction, if anybody remembers that, which was to go very quickly. And I just looked at each piece without looking at its title or anything to see if I caught something from it. Then I went through a second time and took a little bit longer with each of the pieces. And I also would read its title and to see, was I getting this right? Was I seeing the artist's vision here? And then the third time I went through, I really did an in-depth and took a long time with each piece and read the artist's statement about it to see, did what I was seeing match up with what they were trying to convey. I have to give kudos to the artists and to the folks who put this together because the messages came through. They were so cohesive in that respect, and yet they were across the boards in the art forms that they had. The photography that was in there was really amazing. Some people will talk about photography not being an art. Bullshit. Yes, it is. And I really love the pieces that were in here. The utilization of some tools that made, for instance, in the Tesla factory protest, having the cars crushed down was something I found extremely effective. Um, and then that third time was how I gained, better perspective on where the artists were coming from. And so I did come up with a list of what I felt were the 10 pieces that really, really hit me hard. And usually it was if it got me all three times. Um, we have one of them being um, courage. I loved that piece because it really, really hit my heart. Number 9, I have two in the same place because one is harmony, which is from the perspective of Palestinians, and the other is body bags, which is the Israeli perspective on the conflict that's going on right now. Recognized that right away. Isn't it weird that we've gotten to the point where you can recognize a drone's perspective without really thinking about it? But that both of them were beautifully done. Both of them an honor to those who must resist. And then there was Quiet Rebellion. Quiet Rebellion was a photographic piece that had some manipulation of it. The artist's own son was used as the model, and messages of both hope and resistance were painted on his body, which was dissected with one side being black, one side being white. Really, really effective and very beautifully done. American Son came next for me. As I stated earlier about my own family's history with policing and them not being happy with the way things are taught and the way things are done. That one really hit very close to home for me. The next one I have, number 5, is Underdog. And Underdog, I was telling the Roca folks a little earlier, not only did I think it was by far the cleverest use of the theme, but it also made me a little bit mad because here was this sculpture of a dachshund, a dog, with a bunch of marginalized groups, people representing marginalized groups that were underneath it, those who have been regarded as underdogs over the years. One of them was a woman. There was a person of color. There was somebody who's disabled. There was someone who's elderly. Thank you for that. And the fifth person, I thought, oh, well, that must be the gay guy. That wasn't what the artist's intention was when I read through it. It was obesity. And yeah, I've never experienced that. So I do realize that that is something that is discriminated against, that you're made fun of, that you're marginalized for. But part of me, because I am gay, was kind of like, hey, excuse me, what about us? Um, but it says something about perspective that that was kind of where I immediately went for me. And I don't know the artist. Perhaps this was an issue she has dealt with her whole life, and she went in that direction. Very valid, very fair. But like I said, a little part of me was kind of going, hey, this isn't right. So kudos to Underdog. Human Like You, beautiful. What an excellent reminder that everybody is somebody and everybody is human. It's a figure who is, let's face it, androgynous and beautifully rendered. Um, that one warmed my heart. Harriet Tubman. This is my third place choice. Harriet Tubman has been a hero of mine, along with Sojourner Truth, since I was a kid. My mother being a librarian, that'll do that for you. Being a history buff, that'll do that for you. These women knew what resistance was. And that Harriet Tubman sculpture, just a bust, hit me all 3 times. The power, the strength, the serenity, and yet that feeling that no, you will not put me down. I will not stay down. I will not be marginalized. I love that piece. Congratulations to the artist for Harriet Tubman. Under Assault. Anybody who knows me knows that the immigrant community is very, very important to me. And the Statue of Liberty is to me one of the greatest symbols of that community and what had been America's attitude towards immigrants prior to recently. The Statue of Liberty coming apart, very, very moving for me, very devastating for me. And each of the 3 times I went through, all 3, blink reaction, just quickly, and then the in-depth, all hit me the same way. Again, Under Assault, kudos, wonderful. But the one that affected me the most, each of the 3 times I went through it, was called Home of the Brave. And it is a lovely, almost illustration type of portrait of the female body, a woman wearing a bikini. You could look at it and go, oh, that's beautiful. That's nice. That's that. Until you notice that there is in her hand a wire hanger. Very, very affecting, very frightening. And I thought by far the most representational of the theme of this project, of this show, because it is so much of where women are right now, today, their bodies are being assaulted. Their very souls are being assaulted. And that was why I chose, um, from my perspective, that Home of the Brave was number one in my book for the theme of this particular show. Kudos to everybody. I really, really was affected by it. I could barely sleep last night after the second time I went through long time because I had to go back and look again and go, is there anything that I missed? Should I do it one more time? And I did the same three operations again. And they had me awake for quite a while, reminding me that we can't just sit around and be diplomatic anymore and try and be polite. Say, oh, no, that's okay. You have your opinion. I have mine. We have to stand up for certain things. And this is one of those times to do so. And I thank Lisa and Michael and Andrew for allowing me to be part of this, for asking me to be part of this. It's a great honor. Um, and to any artist whose work I didn't mention, trust me, I spent a good deal of time on it, and I thought it was very valid, but I don't have the time, and I always talk over too much anyway. But all of you, thank you very much for having me here, and this was a very important show. Brilliant, really brilliant.
John, thank you so much.